Good evening. This is the November 14th, 2012 Canby Urban Renewal Agency special meeting. The first item on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as we have a moment of silence for our military personnel worldwide. Thank you. Okay, the next item of business is under new business, and it's a First Avenue redevelopment project. Greg or Dan? Dan?
Thank you, Chair Ayers and members of the agency. We just wanted to give you a brief update as we near completion of the First Avenue project. And so staff's put together some pictures and information. As you probably are aware, the First Avenue project is urban renewal funded project, about $3.2 million for new streets, street lights, parking, wider sidewalks, landscaping, seating areas, and also involved new stormwater lines, new water lines, and electric undergrounding of electrical service. We have a number of pictures of the project before it began, which actual construction began in May 24th of this year. These are pictures of the area in the winter of this year, before we took down the several large big leaf maple trees. A lot of those trees were deemed hazardous by our urban forester, and when we actually removed the trees, we saw that as we cut through them, a lot of the trees had rot in the middle of those. So although they were a lot of aesthetic value in terms of safety, I think it was good that they were eventually removed. And some more pictures of those big leaf maple trees along First Avenue. Over 2 years ago, a subcommittee was put together to work on designs for First Avenue. Their process ended in September of last year, actually. And as part of the project, a task force was put together involving a wide variety of people, including merchants, some merchants on First Avenue. And they looked at several designs. These are some of the schematic designs that they initially looked at. And they actually reviewed 3 alternative plans, and they all varied in terms of the number of parking spaces that were provided. And the committee picked the alternative that you see constructed out there today, which was Alternative B, which is halfway between full utilization of parking and full utilization of aesthetics. So it was the in-between alternative that was selected. More schematics of the area. You can see that the parking lot, which was originally, I believe, about 80 feet wide, several years ago we discovered that was actually only 50 feet wide, so we had to reduce the amount of pavement, and as you see today, we have one row of parking along that area, is 45-degree parking, and we still have all on-street parking on First Avenue. Part of the plan was that at the intersections we would have either a pattern of bricks or colored concrete. We ended up using colored concrete in the end because it was less expensive. As I mentioned, work began on May 24th. Previous to that, we selected Canby Excavation. We went through a bid process, and they were selected. Some of the first work they did was removing asphalt between Elm and Fir, and installation of the new storm sewer. Part of that involved removing asphalt on Fir between First and Second to connect to existing stormwater lines. And also during that time, Canby Utility put up temporary street lights as work began on the undergrounding of electrical. Some more pictures of the construction that occurred back in May. And again, a lot of that focused on removing the existing asphalt on First and in the parking areas. Then in June, second month of construction, the focus was between North Elm and Grant. Again, installation of storm lines, undergrounding of water lines, and the beginning of installation of power and cable and phone lines, and work on the water lines, and initially pouring of curbs between Elm and Fir. Again, pictures showing some of the subgrade work before the asphalt paving on First Street, and the trenching for utilities and storm lines. And both in May and June, the focus of the work was for underground utilities. Then in July, a lot of work focused on the section between Elm and Grant, and a lot of prep work for sidewalks, grading for concrete curbs, more work on the storm and sewer systems, trenching for power, and the first major paving, which was First between Elm and Grant. And following the paving, work began on the expression strips, which is the colored concrete areas that are in the shape of bricks. More pictures from the work in July. One of the big things in July and August was pouring of the intersection at Grant and First. This is, as you know, a major traffic arterial, and we were trying to, and I thought did a pretty good job of limiting the time that was closed. We had it closed for about 3 weeks, and that was to allow for the concrete to set at a hardness that would be safe for vehicles to cross. In August, the work really we began to see some results. A lot of the crosswalks were completed, particularly at Grant. All the light fixtures were installed for all the new lights. Curbs between North Grant and Holly completed, and power and water service was switched over. New water service to all the existing buildings, and a lot of trenching and power installed. In the section between Elm and Grant, a lot of sidewalk work from Elm to North Grant, a sidewalk on the north side along with the expression strips between the curb and the sidewalk, and the parking lot behind the businesses between North Fir and Grant. We had to trench an area in there for moving some of the power. Cub actually installed 2 power poles in that area, and we had to reroute some of the power underground in that area. Again, more pictures, some pictures of the expression strips between the sidewalk and the curb. And lower right, we actually did some extra work in the project that wasn't in the original scope. We extended sidewalks that were in pretty bad shape on the site of Mattress World and on Grant. This was a good opportunity to fix some pretty poor sidewalks. September, North Grant and North Ivy Street parking paved, and between North Elm and North Grant, landscaping, focus on landscaping, and I know we spent a lot of time getting the right mixture of dirt that was provide optimum growing conditions for our landscaping. The planters and art plinths were poured, and the installation of light poles began. Between North Elm and North Ivy, continued concrete work on the south side, demolition of the west parking lot, and curbs poured between North Elm and Grant. And we also at that time paved Elm Street, again a really important arterial. We tried to minimize the time that was closed. I think it was, Jesse, what, 7-8 days that we closed that?
A little bit more than that.
Yeah.
But it was
And
originally going to be 6 weeks or so, because we had concrete in there and that was removed.
Right. Yeah, originally we were going to provide a concrete expression strip for the crosswalk, and we took that out, so we'd minimize the time that we'd have to close Elm Street. That was very important to the businesses on 3rd. Again, more pictures from the work in September. In October, final grading in the west parking lot was completed. We began work on filling the planters with the soil and beginning of delivery of the trees. Finished a lot of the sidewalks. Electrical meter bases were poured. And we also finished I'd say all the private side electrical work between the meters and the panels for each businesses was completed during this time. And then during the end of the month, you see that the old power poles were removed. Again, more pictures from the work in October. And currently, today actually we completed our punch list walkthrough and identified issues that remain to be completed. All the hardscape and utility improvements have been completed. Remaining items include, we have 2 monument signs that need to be finished. The bases the foundations are installed, but the sign has to be built. The fence near the rear of the property in the parking lot needs to be installed. And while most of the trees are in, we still have some shrubs and ground covers that need to be installed. The Ford Foundation is working on our bike racks, and we also need to, at some point, order some benches. The good news is currently our balance in our contingency fund and savings through value engineering, we have over $300,000 right now. That number could change as we get our final numbers and our final change orders. But one thing that I think would be something to be considered is if we would want to use that money to possibly build the, especially on grant, the gazebos. So I guess with that, Jesse Nemec is here. He's our project inspector and engineer. And if you have any really technical questions, Jesse can answer those.
Mr. Chair, I've got a question for Jesse.
Yes.
What did you learn? Taking this from concept to completion, what did you learn?
Well, to clarify, I wasn't personally involved in the concept and design phase. I was strictly in the construction end. That the more we do urban redevelopment project, there's always unknowns. And that was just reaffirmed to me throughout this project. There was a lot of things that, despite best efforts of planning, that you just don't always know what's underground. You don't have X-ray vision. So that was the big thing that I learned.
Well, I noticed after the first block, we didn't have any more water mains, so didn't have a detailed description of where those guys were, huh?
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jesse. We appreciate your work and your accessibility. Anytime we've needed to get a hold of you, you've been here, so thanks.
Absolutely.
I think I'll go along with that too. I appreciate you being out there whenever we had a question or whatever. You were there to answer the question and get right back to us. We had a few issues with a few parts of the project. We were able to mitigate those by going and talking with the business owners and things like that one to try to work through them and get a resolution that everybody could be happy with. So thanks a lot for being out there day in and day out, rain and shine. I know you were out there in a lot of the nasty weather, and it's a few of the good days, or the really hot days, you probably didn't want to be out there either, but everybody did a good job. I really want to thank Canby Excavating for the job that they did to keeping the people busy. There was nobody slacking that I could ever see out there, and I think the business owners really appreciated that. They could see that we were working as hard as we can to get that project done as soon as we could. So thank you for all your work, and also staff, the rest of staff, Dan and everybody else that worked on it and made sure that the business owners were kept informed of what was going on. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll extend those appreciations to Canby Excavating.
Well,
One observation between Elm and coming this way, I didn't realize there's that much of a hump in the street again before they start construction. And I notice now we're about, 2 feet higher than the railroad track. And so now they piled soil against the side, but is there going to be something to keep that from eroding?
Yes, the finished landscaping and bark mulch will be stabilized in that area, and it will be finished out at a slope that will be stable.
any other comments? I have one, and that is, I mentioned this before, that for many, many years, I was involved with industries that did a lot of underground work, and I am still amazed that you found as few water pipes and things with your hydraulic locators. We had a couple of big ones there, but I was amazed that there wasn't more because the plant under there is so old, and there were no reliable maps of where stuff was. So I think it went well, and I also appreciate Canby Excavating. It was nice to be able to do a major project in this town with a local company, and I think that's a plus. And I would like to clarify one thing. Dan, you mentioned it was a $3.2 million project. Urban renewal, well, not all that was urban renewal money. About 25 to 30%, as I recall, was from the sewer development, or the sewer funds and the street funds. So it wasn't all urban renewal money.
Yeah, we had a lot of, when the project started, we decided to redo the storm system.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Well, I think you had to. There was obviously during the design, because I was on the bid selection committee when we selected the contractor, and I know there was a lot of discussion about the slope of that section that Walt was talking about, of where the water didn't flow right. And if it hadn't been addressed the way we did, it could have been a flooding issue of some of the businesses and puddling that I know you all worked hard on to not have happen. So.
Yes, I want to thank Kimby Utility Board too for all the work they put into to getting the poles and everything down. I mean, I cannot believe how much better it looks now out there that we've got the poles down, and also the one right behind here that I was down at Cutsforth the days that they were taking out the other poles. I looked up there and went, that needs to go. Staff worked on it, and that thing was gone in 2 days also. So thanks a lot for everybody pulling their weight and getting it done. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, that interagency cooperation, while citizens have it as a given, it doesn't always happen. So I haven't heard a problem from this project, so thanks for helping us out with the logistics and the timing.
Brian, you had
Just a question regarding the fence monument signs and landscaping that's going to be done. Do we have a projected completion date on those aspects?
Well, the shrubs are scheduled to start arriving next Tuesday. So they'll be going in quickly thereafter. It'll go pretty quick, so I'm guessing within a week. As far as the fence, it's kind of a scheduling issue right now, as the foundations are in and the concrete's curing right now, and we're just trying to get them scheduled to get on site.
So we don't know that one.
So I'm not positive on that one just yet.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Anything else? Thanks, you guys did a good job.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, next item of business is citizen input on non-agenda items. Is there anyone wanting to, I'm sorry.
We didn't approve our minutes.
Well, it's not until the next agenda item.
Oh, sorry.
I'm linear here tonight. So let's continue. If there's anyone wishing to address the agency on a non-agenda item, now is your opportunity to come forward. And I don't see a rush to the microphone, so now we will go to the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the October 10th special meeting. And I'll just point out that we found some typos after the packet was mailed out, and Sue has assured me that all the typos have been corrected in not only the minutes of this meeting, but also in our packet tonight and some of the resolutions.
Chair, I move that we adopt consent agenda minutes of the October 10th, 2012 URD agency special meeting.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Carson, second by Commissioner Hodson to approve the minutes of the October 10th, 2012 URD agency special meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and it's passed. Next item is resolution and ordinances. URR 12-014, amending section 600A3 of the Canby Urban Renewal Plan to provide more detail on certain projects for civic centers. Greg?
Thank you, Chairman Ayers. If you would go to page 3 of the packet, please. And that talks about, it's titled Exhibit B. And you'll see that it's item number 3, it's out of the Urban Renewal Plan. And item 3, there's some footnotes there. Number 1, down at the bottom, it says this was in the original plan. Footnote 2, which is the second paragraph, was adopted in 2006. It's resolution number 06-006. I was thinking it's a little later than that. And then the new language that we're wanting to put in is the underlined. And what this is, in state statutes, it's called a serves and benefits line. And so in order to do this project, we have to do a serves and benefits resolution, and that's what this is. And it was my feeling at the beginning of this one, I think it was on August 22nd, I made a presentation to the council and I talked about this language being in the original plan about public buildings, et cetera. I talked to the urban renewal attorney, and she felt that it should be more specific than that, and so that's why this is in here. It's coming in afterwards because it's my fault. It should have been in here before, but it's procedurally it's not a big deal. It doesn't stop anything. But she felt that it should be a serves and benefits resolution, so that's why I'm bringing it before the agency tonight.
It's my understanding that this is the last piece that we need to do so that the bonds can be sold for not only the library, the civic things, but the Sequoia Parkway Bridge is included in that same bond
That is
issue.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Chair, I move we adopt ordinance number, or Urban Renewal Resolution 12-014, a resolution amending section 600.A3 of the Canby Urban Renewal Plan to provide more detail on certain projects for civic centers.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Carson, second by Commissioner Daniels. Can I read that? To approve Urban Renewal Resolution number 12-014, a resolution amending section 600A3 of the Canby Urban Renewal Plan to provide more detail on certain projects for civic centers. Discussion? All those-
Just a heads up that I personally feel that a vote for this resolution would be me admitting that I agree with the language as written, and I don't, so I will be voting no.
Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve URR 12-014 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
And that would be 6-1. Okay, next item is URR 12-015, approving a contract with Francisburg Architects for construction management for the new library and City Hall renovation. Dan?
Thank you, Chair Ayers and members of the agency. This resolution would approve the hiring of Francis Berg as the construction manager for the library and City Hall project. We advertised our RFP on October 9th in the Daily Journal of Commerce and received 5 proposals. We interviewed 4 of the 5 finalists, and the committee picked Francis Berg. So what you have here not only is a resolution, but the personal services agreement for a not-to-exceed amount of $212,950. This would take the contract through January 31, 2015. And we've anticipated construction times to be approximately 13 months for a new library, and for the renovation of City Hall, approximately 4 months. And if things go according to schedule, we could start construction as soon as late summer of 2012.
Dan,
2013, sorry.
you mentioned that there were 5 that responded and 4 you interviewed. This company that we're approving tonight is the same one that worked with us on the police department, and
Correct.
And they did a fine job. But what were some of the reasons why you picked this company as opposed to the others? Was it cost? What was it?
Well, their cost was actually in the middle of the pack. We looked at experience in working in the Canby area, and we also looked at the firm's experience doing public projects and libraries specifically. And then, there's this thing that's hard to quantify, but it's just the ability to work with city staff and work with architects, and our experience with Berg was that they were excellent at that. The other thing is they probably were heads, just way above all the other firms in the fact that all 3 members of their group are architects. And when we're into vertical construction, that really helps because they know what things cost, they know how things are constructed, and they have a lot of experience knowing what costs are and cost control. So that's what we felt was important.
Yeah, my major contact with the firm during the police department was with Bill Harper, one of the 3 principals, I guess. He was always responsive to us. Anytime we had a question or an issue, he was right on top of it.
Another thing, these, Frank Berg and Bill Harper helped write the manual on the CMGC type of projects, and that's what we're going to do here. And so I think their experience with CMGC was really, really important to this project. So that's I think that's another reason we looked at, because we did interview the other ones, and some of them were trying to talk us out of the CMGC.
Well, that was the process we used on the police department.
Yeah,
Correct.
I love the process. I think getting everybody on the same page, you do a design, bid, build. I mean, there are places for that, but to get everybody to come in and help basically design, look at the project, and say, here's how we can do it, it stops arguments in the end. And the police station was a 12-month project, which a lot of people thought was really fast, and they stayed within budget. And that budget was relatively low for that size of building. Not relatively low, it was low for a 36,000 square foot building, $9 million project, and they stayed within budget. So, and a lot of that we felt was the result of Bill Harper and the work that he did, knowing what he was doing, knowing construction, knowing architecture. So we were real happy with him.
Greg?
I just want to give some support to staff for their choice in not going necessarily with the cheapest bid. People were talking about ways that we could run government more like business, and business doesn't always choose the cheapest route. Sometimes you have to take the more sensible route. I think our friends to the south in Marion County have a courthouse they're sitting on that they may have wished that they didn't take the lowest bidder on putting that thing up. So I want you to know that you've got my support for using good judgment in who we select to design and build these things.
Other comments, questions? Tim?
Sue, the typos are taken care of in the contract as well? Okay. A question for Greg. The contract specifies the public library and the renovated city hall. Does it also include renovating the old library?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. That was
Yes.
part of it. We wanted to make that all
Okay,
part of it.
that's not specifically stated in the contract.
Okay. We should take a look at that if it's not, and I mean, put that in, because we talked to them specifically about making sure they understood they were going to help look at the logistics of how we were going to do this.
Right. I wanted to make sure that was in the scope of
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
That's a good point.
Good
Because
catch.
when I read City Hall, I was thinking the library renovation in City Hall, and in fact,
Yeah.
it's talking about,
Is it this building?
That building.
This building?
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so,
Yeah, I want to make sure we're covered on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to make sure that they bid in that scope of work.
Yeah, good catch.
It's the intention of the agency
Yes.
that's
Yes.
included.
Right.
Yeah, good, yeah.
So
Thank
are
you.
we okay moving forward on the contract? Do we know?
You can vote on the resolution and say exhibit as amended by discussion,
right,
and then we can make the
changes and sign it later.
Okay.
later.
Official procedure, tippity tappity.
Tippity tappity, or in my case, with my computer lately, it's been slap slap.
Tippity tappity, slap
Slap,
slap.
slap.
Sue, we're glad you're
Okay,
here.
Sue.
Glad you're ours.
Yeah, glad you are.
And then will it need to come back before us in it?
we can adopt the resolution, and then before we sign it, we'll make sure that the inclusion is in.
Okay.
So don't sign it
I
tonight.
won't sign it tonight.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Great catch, Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, further questions or discussion? If someone would make a motion?
You bet. I move to adopt resolution number URR 12-015, a resolution of the Canby Urban Renewal Agency Board approving a personal services agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Francis Seberg Architect, PC, to provide construction management for the new library and City Hall renovation.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Parker, second by Commissioner Daniels, to approve resolution number URR 12-015, a resolution of the Canby Urban Renewal Agency Board approving a personal services agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Francis C. Berg Architect, PC, to provide construction management for the new public library and renovated City Hall. And I will make a comment that the documents will be amended to include the renovated library,
As discussed.
as discussed. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And it's passed unanimously. Okay, next item, new business continued, facade improvement fund status.
I'll talk about that, Chairman.
Okay?
You were handed a sheet tonight that talks, it looks like this, and it says 2012 Canby Facade Improvement Program Financial Overview. And I think in the past we've discussed about how popular this facade improvement program is, and so we're kind of a victim of our success here. And we've got several projects that want to do the facade improvement. You can see those at the top there: Canby Station, American Legion, T-Line Design, Trinity Counseling, Canby Music. Those are ones that have been approved by the agency in the past. We've got, the total estimated cost is 157, a little over 157 for those projects. The estimated Urban Renewal Agency involvement would be about 68,585. And funds remaining for future projects is currently 6,414. So what we'd like to do is move some money around, like the authorization from the agency to move the money. We would come back with a supplemental budget later to make sure that that was done correctly. But as you can see down below, we've currently budgeted a URD project, $61,242. We'd like to use $20,000 of that to be reallocated to facade improvement. Our redevelopment program, currently budgeted $25,000. We'd like to take $10,000 of that, put in facade improvement. The revolving loan program, which this was the first year we actually had that, we've got $75,000 budgeted. We'd like to take $25,000 of that and put into the facade improvement program. URD projects, going back to what these were budgeted for, it's just for, like URD projects, there's no specific thing. It's just for incidentals that come up, basically, in URD projects. In the redevelopment grant program, that's for people or businesses that may want to look at projects, or what am I trying to say? It's looking at projects but not doing them.
So planning.
Planning, yeah, there's another word I was looking for, but planning is a good enough word. Planning for projects. And then the revolving loan program, of course, is for people who may want equipment or any type of capital equipment. It's not for, the revolving loan program, as you know, is not for operational, but it's for capital improvement. So we haven't got a big demand for those right now, either the redevelopment grant or the revolving loan. So I'd like to reallocate that money to the urban renewal facade improvement program.
First question that comes to mind is that, I know Renata seems to have things in the pipeline. Do we have others in the pipeline now that are in the process, and is this inadequate to get us through this fiscal year, or this is like a 6-month?
We have people that have just turned in the first part of their application, and then I just heard from somebody today who's also interested, but they haven't looked into what that looks like down the road. But both of them are smaller projects, just awnings or painting, things of that nature.
Okay.
If staff could come to the mic,
Oh.
just because it's being recorded. Okay, thank you.
Were you going to, do you have a question?
No, I was just going to ask that same question in terms of what things we already had in the pipeline that we're going to, that we were going to move on to help, move this money to help make happen this year versus waiting until next year. And then my other question was, are these yearly numbers that we've set aside for this year, then next year we reevaluate these certain categories?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is what we would do.
Back to the pipeline, we talked about what's coming down the pike for facade improvement. You said there isn't a large demand for the grant or the revolving loan, but do we have anybody making noises? Is there anybody in the pipeline, since that's the term we're using, for those two programs?
Yeah, I don't know.
On the redevelopment grant, we've talked to two businesses that might be looking, but in conversations with them, it doesn't sound like anything's imminent, nothing that we foresee them coming to us before next year. Some of them are waiting for the economy to rebound a bit before it makes economic sense to invest. So we would still leave $15,000 in that pot, and it is a matching grant, so the business needs to contribute half toward the project, and it's really to assess the feasibility. Does it make sense to make this investment? What's the market? What's the rate of return? To really help that investor, that business, make a wise business decision in investing in. Both of these would be downtown investments. So one of them would be much smaller scale, one would be fairly large, but both of them are not eminent. So I think it's fairly safe to reallocate some of them funds, knowing that we still have some available should they pursue it, and they could bridge next year as well. And then on the revolving loan fund, we talked with one company recently that wanted to do equipment replacement. Fortunately, they were able to repair that piece of equipment, so they no longer need the loan. The other had talked about partnering the revolving loan fund with the facade improvement program to address some roofing issues that they also needed to deal with. It was leaking. They're now looking at potentially replacing the building, so that would be way beyond the scope of our revolving loan fund.
I would say.
So.
Okay. All right, thank you, Renata.
All right.
One question.
Well,
Sometime back, I expressed concern about having signs covered under this. If we look up the definition of facade, I don't have my notes with me, but it doesn't cover, if you look in the dictionary, it doesn't cite signs. And those can change because of business, where the facade stays there pretty much, like the brickwork and stuff like that. Get new business in, there's no big change there. And I have a question of why are we including signs in that facade?
It was a part of the facade improvement program since its inception, but certainly the Urban Renewal Agency could direct staff to come back with revised language eliminating signs from the program. We'd be happy to do that for you if that's the consensus of the group.
I mentioned one time that I talked to Greg about it one day, because one business said, well, you spent $1,400 for a sign. Well, you know, I'm not saying that they may not make it, but then again, signs change because of the businesses.
okay. Other comments or questions? All right, so you're just, you will come back with a resolution to accomplish this
Yeah, I think
at a
it'll be,
future meeting? I mean, because we don't have a resolution in
right.
front of us to
No,
do
no,
that.
it would be supplemental budget.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear the others, if they want to stick with the sign, it's included with it or not. I mean, we brought this up for discussion once before, and it just goes by the wayside. But, I'm willing to support the agency either way. But I think the facade improvement's a great idea, but I think the sign itself is personal property and should be separate. That's just my opinion.
I guess I wouldn't mind having a discussion on it, and, you know, in a paper telling us the pros and cons. When I picture sign, you know, the sign for Canby painting or something is obviously targeted for that company, but typically the frame, the stand, the pedestal, the monument, is reusable.
It depends on which one,
Yeah.
So many times our signs are on the building itself.
Yeah. So I
We can
think,
have the language be more specific in what
Yeah.
kinds of signs, framework, et cetera. Maybe we wouldn't end up removing the language, but redefining it.
so would you like to have that put on a future discussion?
Yeah, I would like
Yes.
that.
So if we could put together kind of what it is and some alternatives to what we currently have, including what we have, for us to chew on and discuss.
I like Tracy's idea there of that if a sign's going to be built, that it represents more of the facade, that it's something that you can take it down and put a new one up, that it's part of a monument or that sort of thing. That would make sense.
I think of like Briggs and Minifig, where they put something on the out front of the street there, where that sign itself could be changed in and out, but the base work stays. So that the base work would be what could be part of the program, but not the sign change
That makes
itself.
sense. But it would be worthwhile to have
Plastic
staff.
face or lights or whatever.
So as a point of clarification on that, currently our facade improvement does not include what's called monument sites because they're not attached to the building. They're freestanding. If you'd like us to include that as part of the package, we could certainly do so, but right now, those are not allowed.
Well, why don't you include that in the discussion? Is that something we want to include? And some pros and cons of doing that.
I'd be happy to do that for you.
Help us come to a conclusion rather than do a knee-jerk reaction to the blue plastic sign that's just been put up or something. Or
spray painted.
Yeah.
Or by name.
Now, what's the matter with rattle cans?
Sharpies.
A lot of artists.
At least if we own part of it, we could erase it.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so you're going to come back with a supplemental budget to accomplish this, unless we hear from someone saying no?
We really need a supplemental budget that you can't administratively move within a category? Okay.
It was passed by the budget committee, and we don't have the authority to do that without supplemental budget. So,
Okay, thank you.
We have more authority?
Next item is Library City Hall Facilities Update.
yeah, I just have a couple of things, Chairman Ayers. Just want to let you know, I just came back from vacation. I received a feasibility study from Eco Northwest regarding the sale of the bonds, and it's very positive. I just got that, so I didn't bring it tonight. I will be probably emailing that out to the agency instead of waiting for a month. Like I said, I just got it, so I think it's good reading, very positive. Talks about coverage ratios, very good, and even without what they call excess value, which is like Dragonberry adding to the value, Eco Northwest feels that even conservatively, we're going to go up a certain amount in assessed value. Not going to be a problem. Coverage is going to be good, so it's a very positive report. So I'll get that to you. And by the way, that feasibility study is required to sell the bonds. The investors want to see that, so that's a requirement. We got our Moody's rating, and it's A2 again, and so that's a really good rating. So our interest rate should be relatively good. So we got a little report on that too, and I'll be sending that out to the agency also, just to let you know, so.
Better than half the countries in Europe, so.
But again, just to remind everybody, that's not just the bond for the Library City Hall, but that includes the bond for the Sequoia Overpass
That is correct.
development.
And the refunding,
And that's a refinancing.
and the refinancing, yeah. So some positive stuff.
Good. Okay, any questions?
And I believe, when I was gone, Amanda sent out what they call a preliminary official statement.
Right.
It's 56 pages of really interesting stuff. And so I hope you got that and looked at it. That was pretty interesting too, so. Anyway,
Okay,
that's all I had. Thank you.
questions, comments? Right, next item is urban renewal update.
No update today, we did it with the first
Did it on the first half, okay. Next item is economic development update.
And you can get your chairman next.
done shuffling papers.
Okay, sorry about that. My paper should come with instructions, I think. James Stigall, Main Street Manager, for the Main Street update. Our downtown First Friday was a success. It was on November 2nd. We had about 16 businesses participating that featured live music, retail specials, food specials, fundraisers. The Cash Mob assembled in front of City Hall at 6 p.m. and for anybody that was there or anybody who drove by, we had a special guest, which was the Bigfoot from Malala. It is a promotion that their Main Street program was working on, and we decided to partner with them, and we're one of many downtowns that are partnering to bring the Bigfoot to try and help Malala pass the word about how great their downtown is. And we had people taking pictures, and so it was kind of a fun way for us to promote our Cash Mob event as well. Our promotions committee holds its meetings the third Monday of the month at 5:30 p.m. at the Economic Development Services Conference Room. We are working right now to revise the ordinance that prohibits alcohol on public property in Canby. And this would be in conjunction with special events. So it's not just so that people could walk down the street with a beer on a random Tuesday, but a controlled event with probably a beer or wine garden, so that organizations or businesses could hold fundraisers, things of that nature, just like other downtowns do. That was brought to City Council on November 5th, and a second reading of the ordinance is scheduled for November 21st. The First Avenue grand reopening, which is the first smaller attachment that you have there, is scheduled for Saturday, November 24th from 10 to 1. That Saturday is known nationally as Small Business Saturday, and so we thought that that was a great timing between the end of the project and a way to help bring some attention to those First Avenue businesses that have struggled throughout the project. We have various speakers scheduled. Speaking will be at 10 a.m. And then there will be activities for children and adults. The 2013 rodeo court will come down with a practice roping steer for children and or adults who are interested. The police department will hand out stickers. We have some games. We're working with the classic car group to see if they would come down. I know that they had expressed interest in the past, but with those cars, it's very much up to the weather. Some music, we're going to use that as our time to invite the people who have participated in our banner program on First Avenue to come down, see how great the banners look with our redeveloped First Avenue. And we're working on a map for that so that people can kind of walk on their own. And our promotions committee is working diligently on other activities and fun things that we can add. The great poster that you have in front of you, one of our committee members actually made at donator time, and kind of took the vision of the group to bring it to First Avenue and put that together. So moving on to organization. As far as outreach goes, with the construction winding down on First Avenue, I've continued the weekly face-to-face contact with the business owners, and as the project ends, the face-to-face contact will continue, but it was a great way to introduce myself to those business owners and get myself in the door when I first got here. And so that update had been emailed and hand-delivered to First Avenue businesses for the duration of the project. As far as economic restructuring goes, we have the vacant property database that we brought to you in June of 2012. The larger handout that you have in front of you is the updated downtown database that will be added to our City of Canby website this week. And I got some really great feedback from some of the property owners here that said that it's a nice tool, and they're happy that we're keeping it updated so that people know what space is available. Moving on to design, the 99E banners that I had brought forward to you guys before, they are actually being hung tomorrow. So we're very excited to see those banners go up between the downtown area, and then the rest of the crew will hang the rest of the Canby banners along Highway 99. The downtown artistic banners, once again, a call for artists was put out, and it brought colorful banners that really embodied things that are Canby: flowers, vegetables, train even. Between local artists and the Canby High School, we received about 100 banners, and it was a great partnership between the high school, Canby Main Street program, and the Canby Arts Association. And we paired down the banners and then partnered like banners. So 34 were chosen in all, and Canby Signs and Graphics put those together. They were hung on 2nd Avenue just right around Halloween time, and then half have been hung on 1st Avenue, with the rest to continue as the project gets further on. Going back to facade improvement, we received a facade application from Total Car Care, which is on Highway 99. He is currently working to find an architect or designer, and his vision for the project is to remove the fake brick in spots, redo or remove the awnings, add new awnings, change the look with peaks on the roof, and the addition of new windows. And then today, one of the owners of Jean's Electronics, or Jean's Home Electronics is what it used to be called, she called because she had received the facade improvement information from her daughter-in-law, who actually owns the accounting business there. And they are interested as well in doing some minor changes with, looks like an awning and then some painting. And our design committee meets the 3rd Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. at the Economic Development Services Conference Room. And along with the promotions committee, anybody is welcome to join. We love input and ideas, and everyone is welcome.
Jamie, I just have a quick question. Thank you, sorry. I might have heard you wrong. Did you say the speakers on First Avenue's celebration was at 10 a.m.? Because the flyer says 11, so.
The speakers are at 11, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I don't know if anyone else caught it, but it does say on the flyer 3.2 million of urban renewal. Should it say it that way? I'm thinking it shouldn't. It isn't all urban renewal money.
And we can get that
talked about early. So I didn't know if you printed all of these or if you just printed these for us today.
We handed them, I did print those for today, and I handed them out to First Avenue businesses. But with any of the information that we hand out, my plan was to take it around again, and then to expand to 2nd Avenue as well to try and get those up. So it's I would think, a very easy change. The volunteer that helped make those was really great and kind of rushed it, so I'm sure that we'll be able to get it changed and get it back out by the end of this week.
With the population of the public that watches the urban renewal dollars, I think we should state it accurately.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, great call. Rich?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree, and also as a matter of record of getting it out there. To the agency as something for us to think about as we move ahead, I think it's striking the few number of vacancies we've got on First Avenue and Second Avenue. We are at a point where we will be at capacity in terms of being able to accommodate new businesses. And under the Main Street program, there are actually 4 operating committees. We've got 2 of them up and running. The next one I'd like to see getting some momentum, and I've been out recruiting folks for it, is economic restructuring. Are there buildings that can be repurposed so we can get even more businesses in? Those type of questions, because we do, the plus and minus of Canby's downtown is that it is compact, it is in one area, but of having a committee take a look at how we can maximize what we've got down there. We've got places like the Graham Building that some people have mentioned to me could be repurposed to have several businesses in, not just one. So this is something I think we need to take a big picture look at in the next year or two, is when, as the economy increases by 1 or 2 or 3% a year and starts expanding, what we're going to do when we hit capacity for all of our downtown storefronts. Because we're just about there on First Avenue. We've got, what, two availabilities, the Legacy.
And they actually have a tenant, but within, the tenant has the option to buy, or the building is up for sale as well, or the C&Js.
So it just seems to me that it would be good to get that economic restructuring committee up and going and taking a look at, say, what do we do in order to keep putting the right type of business, the appropriate type of business, and expanding business downtown.
Chairman,
Well,
I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank those merchants out on First Street for putting up with this project. They've been pretty quiet about this. I know if you go down there and patronize a few of the restaurants, you know, they don't complain about it. You ask them, they'll say, well, business has been down. But anyway, I think this has been a great project, and everybody was cooperating, particularly with the contractor, and everybody said, yeah, we were really informed. But I think they just owe thanks for them for putting up with this, because it really devastated their businesses during this time, when the weather's nice and people are out strolling. And, I had an occasion the other day be in a group of people, and they said, well, when are they going to put trees down on First Street? Somebody says, have you been down there? So I encourage all of you to drive down. It's not that bad. You just drive right down, and you can go all the full length of it and see what's happening. And I'm real impressed the way it's coming out.
And then in addition to what Commissioner Daniels has said, here with the Main Street program, we talk about Cash Mob all the time for our First Friday. But it might be neat if everybody who's here and everybody at home maybe brings a friend down on that Small Business Saturday and chooses to mob whatever their favorite business is. Take $10 in or $20 in or more if you can do it. But if we each put that commitment forward, we can really make a difference for these businesses who have struggled on First Avenue throughout the duration of the project.
And Jamie, in terms of First Friday, you're going to keep that as a year-round?
Year-round.
And see, that's kind of a gutsy thing for a city to do, but I think it's good, because it's not like, well, when does the farmer's market start and when does it end? You know, that this is going to be happening all the time, rain or shine, and I see this as a way of getting some momentum. So, way to go. I'll be here with my umbrella next month.
Thank you.
maybe warm shoes too. Okay, we're not.
She understands our
She knows our limitations.
All right. Many of you were able to attend the Dragonberry Produce groundbreaking hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. Again, it's a $2.5 million investment in our urban renewal district. They should be finished in May, I believe. And we continue to help them. There are some international marketing grant opportunities that we've made them aware of, up to $5,000 matching funds to stimulate international trade. So they're interested in that, and also looking to expand their local supplier network. We are the Garden Spot, and we have a lot of